All right. First and foremost, Goldenboy, thank you for coming out and sitting down with me on the channel. Disciple Christian MC is one of the first clubs that I ever was gonna sit down with. I actually did sit down with James,
Yeah.
and it didn't go through because I was terrible at like camera work and the audio got messed up and everything. But today we're here, and I want to learn about your story, the club, everything, because you have a very interesting story. Tell
Yeah.
me about your beginnings, where you were born, stuff like that, and what got you into the culture.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been in the motorcycle community my entire life. So my grandpa actually was a founder of Motorcyclists for Jesus Ministries. And so I grew up riding motorcycles with my grandparents, and then he taught me how to ride, a dirt bike when I was 4 or 5. And before I could actually learn how to ride it, he's like, if you're going to learn to ride it, you better know how to work on it. So we actually had to rebuild the whole dirt bike, do new pistons and rings and carburetor and everything in it, and then learned how to ride it. And then I got my first motorcycle when I was 16 years old, and my mom didn't even know about it. She's like, you can't have a bike till you're 18. But I bought a bike and I kept it at my neighbor's house and would ride it all the time, But we went to the Easy Rider rodeos all the time when I was a kid with my
Is that
grandparents.
in California?
No, Easy Riders they're all over the country, but like in
Oh, okay.
Ohio and the Midwest and down in Florida, like there's back in the day, like in the 90s, the Easy Rider rodeos were the big bike shows,
Oh, okay.
Like they had an Easy Rider magazine and all that. So they set up like this tent where they'd pass out Bibles, and they always got put in like the tent across from one of the local 1% clubs, And my grandma, man, she's fearless. She'd like take a bowl of candy and take it over to the 1%ers, like, you guys need sweetened up. But ever since I was a kid, I was infatuated with that culture, like just the beards, the tattoos, the girls, like the bikes. And my grandparents were good Christian people, but I never really got into it, the Christian side of things. In fact, like, my dad left, when I was pretty early age. My mom, tried to raise me on her own, so I was pretty much raised by my grandparents. But then, my mom and met my stepdad, and he was like Pentecostal, like crazy Christian people, and
I grew up like that.
yeah. And so they take me to that church, and I was like the black sheep because like I was just like the outsider, So when something get broke or something go wrong, like whether I did it or not, most of the time I did, but even when I didn't do it, I always got blamed for it, and just created a deeply rooted hatred towards Christians. I despised them. So right out of high school, I started pursuing in my first MC, and I started relationship with my dad. My dad was a 1%er, and started going down that path and got into the cocaine and methamphetamine and dealing drugs and all kinds of crazy stuff, man.
So you saw your father riding around in the club as a kid?
Yeah, not too much when I was a kid. Like I knew him till I was like 5 or 6. And so I remember like my uncle who was a 1%er, and then, we went to a couple of 1% parties and stuff as a kid. And then later on, like I started real relationship with my dad again when I was like 18. And then that's when I started getting into it again. But
was he like living close to you, or he was like a far distance?
Yeah, he lived right around. Just my mom kept me from him.
Oh, okay.
Didn't want me to have anything to do with him. So, but he's doing good now. It was crazy, man. I had a crazy lifestyle, going. So I started pursuing my first MC. I was like 19 years old, right? And I actually ended up patching up before I should have at 20 years old. And within like 6 months, I became the president of the local charter. And so at 21 years old, as a president of an MC, like, I don't know who was dumber, me for deciding to do it or those following my, my young butt, But I felt like I always had something to prove. So I always had to do more, had to do it harder because I was young and had to prove myself, So I was just crazy.
So were you like one of the younger ones, or was it like a young crew?
No, I was always the youngest. I was always the youngest around,
wow,
man.
And they put you in a leadership role?
Right.
Yeah, that must have been fun.
Yeah, it was crazy. I got really heavy into, I started dabbling in like Adderall and like ADD medicine in high school.
Yeah.
Then like my senior year, I did a little bit of cocaine, and then I've always been into speed and going fast because I've always been into riding dirt bikes,
Yeah.
And then by the time I was the president, I got heavy into methamphetamines and started distributing meth, and was a local dealer, and right before I got saved, I was up for 13 days straight. Like it was insane, and during that time when I was up for 13 days straight, that was like my longest stint. I was at like my breaking point. So I'd been like the MC president for like 4 years now. I was at the time 25, and I was like felt like I was losing my mind, like hallucinating, seeing demons and all kinds of crazy stuff, And I remember one night I got back to my shop. It was like 2:00 in the morning, and that was like on my 13th day of being up. And I was snorting meth and smoking cigarettes in my shop, and I felt like something snapped where I actually lost my mind, And so I had my 357 revolver laying on the workbench in my shop, and I just didn't even think about it. Like I was tired of the voices, I was tired of the chaos, and I picked up the gun and stuck the barrel in my mouth and pulled the trigger.
Wow.
And it actually misfired. And then exactly like an hour and a half, 2 hours later, there was this lady that shot me a message on Facebook Messenger. And it was a lady that I knew that went to my mom's church when I was a kid. And I hadn't seen or spoke to her in 5 or 6 years since I was in high school. And she told me that the Holy Spirit woke her up out of a dead sleep in the middle of the night, and that she had to get a hold of me.
Bro, I don't want to interrupt.
No,
but
you're good.
Does God work through Facebook or something?
Absolutely.
I had a home invasion, and a pastor, after I had the home invasion, it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Like, I've been shot before, but that home invasion was like a mental, like they came in my home and had a gun in my face. So this pastor hit me up, and he told me that, like, don't stop your mission. He said that an angel came to him and told him that I'm going to lead a lot of people to the light in a way that I wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
And to hear you say that, I'm like, does God work on Facebook or something? Like,
He works through everything, man.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah, it was crazy because I was like, I looked at the phone and I was doing some more meth. Like I was freaking out. I didn't know what the heck happened because I opened up, the revolver. I opened it up and the primer struck the hammer struck the primer and everything.
Wow.
So I was like, dude, like this ain't right. I didn't know what to think about it. And so I snorted up some more meth and was just like curled up in the corner of my garage smoking cigarette after cigarette. And I'm thinking about doing it again, and then my phone goes off, like trying it again, And at first I like just answered back because all she said at first was, "Hey Jordan, how's it going?" I'm like, what the heck? It's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
And we ended up video calling through Messenger, and I blew her off like I was kind of just being a jerk about it, because I was like, I'm too far gone, like you're wasting your time. And then finally she's like, Jordan, if you just let me pray for you, I'll leave you alone. Like you never have to talk to me again. And like my exact words were like, get it the F over with. Like just let me out of here, dude. Like it's tripping me out, And so she prayed for me. And then the first thing that came out of her mouth was the name of Jesus. And as soon as she said Jesus, I instantly became stone cold sober.
Real quick, if you enjoy MC Culture content, smash the like and the subscribe button. Give me a pound wherever you're from. And get your Ghostavelli mask, shades, Demons Row snapbacks in all colors, tank tops, crew necks, track races. We got it all. And you can get it on www.demonsrow.com. Let's get back into it.
Like I said, I'd been up for 13 days straight. I'd probably put down about an 8-ball that night alone. And like to be sober is not something that I knew what felt like anymore. And when I became sober, I freaked out again due to like, what did you do to me? And she just started to describe the gospel, man, and how Jesus had a plan for my life and how he intervened. And, he's the one that stopped it. Cause I showed her the gun. I'm like, I should be dead right now. And I had no other explanation for it other than God saved my life that night.
Yeah.
I
believe when stuff like that happens, it means you have purpose.
Yeah.
Like the job ain't done yet.
That's where I'm sitting right now, man.
Yeah.
It's the international president for Disciple Christian Motorcycle Club. And, somebody else would be in this position if it wasn't me. But, God ordained these paths like divine appointments, and so much more.
You were in the club at this time? Still, right?
I was still in my old club.
You
Yeah.
were still in your old club.
hmm
And then what was the next progression after that? Like after you got like sobered up and had this realization, what happened?
Yeah. So the first thing that happened is I slept for like 48 hours straight, like the best sleep I've ever had. Right. And then so this lady continued to mentor me. Right. And so she called me 2 days later. And so there was a disciple that I knew that used to hang around the clubhouses and visit my clubhouse. And I know him really well. It became a good friend of mine. And so she called me up and, well, I should say he was the first person I called to tell him about giving my life to Jesus, right? He's like, that's awesome. So we just, chit chatted or whatever. So Julie calls me, the lady that led me to the Lord. She's like, one of my friends is doing a revival in your hometown, like a couple towns over. And it's like a week-long revival at this church. And she's like, I want you to go down there, because she was in Costa Rica at the time on a missions trip. And so it just so happened that next week, like there was this week-long revival. So I went and I got there, and it just so happened to be the dude from Disciples Church. And so I went to this week-long revival, and the dude would come and escort me from my house to the church, then take me back home after the service. And I went through a lot of like inner healing with her, like the preacher that was hosting the revival, and had a lot of breakthrough, like understanding, because I really didn't know anything about God. I knew that I devoted my life to him, and I knew that he saved my life, and I needed to know more. And so I just, there was a couple of options that we went through. Like there was a lot of stuff like, with what I was involved with, like, what do I do now? Like, cause it was more than the MC, right? It was the dealing of the drugs. And like, one thing was suggested I probably shouldn't say, but I will, is that, her sister was a big time attorney down in Naples, and like, you could become an informant. I'm like, heck no, that's not even an option. That's not me, and, all these different things. So we didn't know what to do. So I just prayed about it. I'm like, God, what do you want me to do? And it presented to itself was this ministry school down in Orlando. And, I knew I needed to get out of where I was from. I needed to get away from the people that I knew. Like, there's no way that I can keep moving forward because I'm just too connected, And so that's what we decided to do. I sold everything, my truck, like my tools, my guns, like everything. I had my motorcycle and a sack of clothes strapped to the back, and I rolled out of up north up here in the Midwest, and I rolled down to Florida in February. It was 16 degrees, and rode my motorcycle down to Florida and went to full-time ministry school. Like, just left everything behind, went to full-time ministry school just to pursue Jesus 110%,
And then, so how did you find yourself back in the motorcycle club world?
Yeah. So I had a mentor when I went through ministry school. His name was Donnie, and he owned a painting company. So after I graduated ministry school and stuff, I actually moved back up to my hometown for like 8 months because my mom had cancer,
Oh.
So I went to be back with her. And then when she passed, I went back to Florida. And so I went and worked for Donnie, and managed his painting company for him because he was going to start up a new church. And so he became a pastor of the church. I was helping him launch his church, and he kept pushing me to get into a motorcycle, like start a motorcycle ministry. I'm like, man, too many people try to reinvent the wheel and start a new club. That takes a lot of work, and there's so many other good organizations out there. And I was instantly reminded of the guys back home that were in Disciple. And I was like, these are some rock solid dudes. They ride hard. They're my kind of people. Like, they're really about the MC life, but they're Christians. So I was like, I'm going to reach out to them and see if they got any guys down here in Florida, and then maybe I'll just, hop in with them. And so I reached out to him, and the guy that I knew was no longer with the club, but he's like, man, if that's where God's leading you to go, that's where you need to go. And so he got me in contact with like our regional point of contact, and got me in contact with him. And it was just all uphill from there, man. Like, I got plugged in. It took me a while to get into Disciple. Like, they slow rolled me for about 6 months because of my history. But, we respect the traditional MC protocols. And man, when you come to Disciple, you prospect, and you prospect hard. And for over a year, like, it's a minimum a 1 year process.
So when you were they there though? Like when you
Yeah,
got the
yeah.
point of contact, they were already
They're already in
Disciple in
Florida.
Florida.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I had no clue how big Disciple really was. Because I just knew them. I thought it was maybe just local guys, around from where I was from. But come to find out, like we as Disciple, we're in over 30 countries.
Wow.
We're an international club on 6 different continents, like all over the place.
That
So
must be cool. Have you gone to like any crazy places?
yeah, yeah. So I've been in the club with Disciple since 2018. I started back in June of 2018, and I didn't become a full patch until January of 2020, and then moved up the ranks from sergeant at arms, the president, to the regional boss, to the national president, no, international president. So, but when I was the regional boss, I decided that I was going to go into full-time missions, like a full-time ministry, my wife and I. And so we were just going to travel for the club, starting charters all over the place, getting in with one percenters and praying for those guys and just getting some FaceTime with them all over the world. So in about an 8-month span, we did 37 states and 5 countries.
Nice.
Yeah. So like we had our European national run in North Cumbria, England. So we flew into Edinburgh, Scotland, and got to hang out in Scotland and ride a Sportster through North Cumbria, like the rolling hills and stuff. And
Cool.
I went to Mexico and Canada a couple times, and yeah, man, it's awesome. So this year we're actually going to Sicily for our Europe run, but
Oh,
I still travel all the time. Like I'm not full-time ministry anymore because I started up a motorcycle shop in Florida, in Leesburg, Florida, and so that takes a lot of my attention too. But it coincides with the club. Like, dude, I ship bikes to our guys all over the country. I mean, even I just delivered 3 bikes out to the West Coast back in
so
December.
so it's not just a shop where you fix them; you sell bikes too.
Yeah, we sell them too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So the reason why I started Disciple or the Crazy Eights Customs, my motorcycle shop, is like because we believe in heavy in tithing and giving back, and walking in as a missionary and people. The only way that I was able to eat was people donated to me. To travel all over the world, like that stuff's expensive. So I was super blessed by receiving those donations. Like the Bible says, better to give than to receive. And I always said that I wanted to be on the giving side of that because I received so much. And so I got presented the opportunity, like another divine appointment, man. God placed this guy in my life, and he wanted to support what I did. And so he had a used car dealership for like 17 years. And so it started out was like you buy something on Marketplace, fix it up, sell it. Like I'll front you the money to do what you need to do, and then when you sell it, just give me the money plus $500 for interest or whatever, and then you can keep the rest. Well, I ended up selling 5 bikes in like 30 days, just flipping them off Marketplace and turned like a huge profit. And he's like, dude, you've got to do this for a living. Like it's almost like an anointing at this point. And so he talked me into, he fronted me the money, about $100,000 to get Crazy Eight started. And we got started. We got the shop in February of last year. And we really started doing business in May. And dude, it's God has blessed it. And 10 to 20% of all of our gross profits goes back into ministries and missionaries all over the globe.
That's the shirt that you have on.
Yeah. The Crazy Eights Customs there.
I like that shirt, bro.
Yeah, I have to get you one.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So tell me about going to all these places and opening up shop. That's not fun, is it?
No, man, it's a lot harder than I ever expected, honestly. I always dreamed of owning a motorcycle shop since I was a kid, wrenching on my dirt bike in my grandpa's shop and Easy Rider rodeos, and like we were talking about OCC and stuff. Like I used to love watching Orange County Choppers. Like that's what I want to do when I grow up is build bikes. And I never thought that it would ever be possible. Like, I ended up in construction after getting saved and stuff, and, it's just good money being in construction. Once you get into the trades, it's hard to get out. But you're not going to stow up enough money to have $100,000 to start up your own shop, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, maybe it'll be a retirement plan where I'll just open up a shop in my backyard and, build bikes, And I fully feel like it was a blessing from being obedient to the call that God put on my life. And it's crazy, man. But that walk of obedience is continuous because I opened the shop. Business was like really good at the beginning, and then we had 2 months where we didn't do any business, like at all. Like I didn't sell a bike, I didn't work on any bikes, and like I'm like, are we gonna have to close this thing down already?
Yeah.
Like holy cow.
I feel like every entrepreneur has to go through that, right? Like
Right.
just what happened? It was so good, and then
It just fell off for
yeah,
well, it's a bad economy and stuff.
yeah,
You can talk about all this stuff, but what it boiled down to is it was a platform for me to continue to preach the gospel and share Jesus with people. And I had been told that I needed to do live streams and preach the word from my Crazy Eights page, and just share about God, because like that's the only reason why I have the shop, was to be able to fund missionaries and to take the gospel further, right? And I wasn't doing that. I was just trying to build this business in my own strength, right? And James, our founder,
hmm
who he actually called me up. He's like, "Hey, we need to talk. Like, let's go have lunch." I'm like, "All right, yeah, come on." And so we go out to lunch, and he said that he heard a word from the Lord that if I didn't start preaching, that God was going to take my business. I'm
wow,
like, I've already been feeling that, dude. And so I was like, all right, I'll do it, because that's the last thing on earth that I want to do is like preach in front of a crowd of people, right?
yeah,
It's not me. Like I like being in the shadows, like even being in the international president position, like in front of everybody. Like my like bread and butter is a sergeant at arms. Like that's who I love to be. But for
yeah,
some reason, I've always got put into higher leadership positions. God, I don't want them.
yeah.
And so I,
I think that those are the best people to hold those positions.
yeah,
I learned, yeah, because there was a lot of times where I like turned down position, and I noticed like things went south, and I should have cared more about the club and just took it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So yeah, it's good that you realize that. Well, the club needs me, so I have to do it.
That's what I always said, man. Is like I would first ask, like, are you sure? Like, there's got to be somebody else better, right?
I
But
think that should be the test for any president. If
right,
he doesn't say that, he's not good
yeah.
for president.
But if you need me to serve there, that's where I'm going to serve, whatever they need. And not even just about the club, but like if God's telling me to do something, whether I want to do it, I'm just going to do it. Just like preaching on the life, like James is like, you got to just start out getting in front of your phone, doing live videos and Crazy Eights, and just sharing what God's putting on your heart, man. And so I agreed to do it. So I called our buddy Daniel up. I was like, Daniel, I need a flyer. I'm going to do this thing called Tune Up Tuesday on Crazy Eight's page. And I don't even know where it came from. It just came to my head. We're going to do Tune Up Tuesday because we're going to talk about motorcycles and Jesus. And so he designed the flyer, but I put it in motion before we even left the shop or left lunch. I get back to the shop and I sell 2 bikes that afternoon,
Wow.
and it broke the dead 2 months that I went through. Like broke that, and that was just that act of obedience for me, man. But we went through. I can't deny that God is real and that He's the one that saved me, because like I've been through hell in a handbasket. Like it's crazy. Like just this year, I rolled a side by side in front of Crazy Eights Customs. Like there's this big cul-de-sac just back in November. I cut my ear off, like and plumb off down to,
Wow.
yeah, you see that scar there? And that's it. Like they sewed it back on, but there's just all kinds of crazy things where God's protected me in my life and kept me from dying where I should have been dead. And um, another time was this last year, I went through some heart problems. Like, and I'm only 33 years old. I shouldn't be having heart problems, but
Yeah.
I actually tore the pericardial sac around my heart, and it like opened up that lining around your heart, and fluid started getting in it. And I had the first time I went to the hospital, I lifted this 300-pound desk up over my head to load up my truck, and I felt something pop. So I thought I just like pulled a muscle in there. And 5 days later, I wasn't able to breathe. I couldn't lay down. Like it would hurt too bad to lay down because I couldn't breathe if I did lay down. So I had to sleep sitting up like this. And my wife finally talked me going to the hospital, and I had like 700 liters of fluid around my heart, or milliliters, which is like zero point 0.7 liters or whatever.
How
And they're
did that
like,
happen?
from tearing it.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. And so they were like, you had maybe a day left to live. Because when you get all that fluid around your heart doesn't have enough room to pump. And it'll eventually just stop, and like you'll go to sleep and not wake up. And so they jabbed a needle in my chest and drained the fluid, and then like sent me home. And then 3 weeks later, I was riding a motorcycle from Florida to Indiana to deliver a bike and then picking up a truck to bring back to Florida. And on the way to Indiana, I'm having the same problems, right? Like I can't breathe, my chest is all tight. And we get up to Indiana. I made it to Alabama on the bike, and then one of my buddies trailered me the rest of the way because I just couldn't ride anymore. Trailered me the rest of the way to Indiana. Then I got out of Ohio, picked up the truck, and we was coming back. I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna make it. So we stopped at an emergency room in Ohio, and turned out I ended up having 1,700 milliliters of fluid around my heart. So almost a 2 liter of fluid. They're like, you should have been dead a week ago.
Wow.
Like crazy, man. But that's all. You could say it's lucky, you could say whatever, but that's just the calling that I feel that God has on my life, that I'm meant to be here no matter what I go through, and He's going to protect me.
Yeah.
You
It
know?
means you have purpose, you know?
Yeah.
So tell me about, like, because you said earlier that you traveled a lot, opening new chapters and stuff. That's not like an easy thing to do.
No.
So when it comes to, it's kind of like a two-part question, because I know it's disciple Christian MC.
Hmm.
So what is the difference in your world when it comes to the MMs, you know, like the motorcycle ministries? Like, what's the difference between a Christian MC and a motorcycle ministry?
Well, the biggest thing is respecting the MC culture. Like, you got to earn that cube. You know, you got the MC cube on your back. You got to earn the right to fly in those areas that you're starting up in. So we don't just start up in a new area flying our Apaches without going to the landlords and getting permission and building the relationships the right way. You know, so like we spent some time out in the West Coast and did just that. Like, you know, we weren't flying colors. We're going around and meeting the local guys and pulling on some contacts from other areas and getting some meets and taking the guys that we have in the area into the landlord's house, you know, the big bro's house, and just start to get acquainted with them and then let them build those relationships. And then we get the right to fly in that area, you know.
So coming from the fact that you were, you know, in the outlaw world before you joined, you know, the Christian MC, when you go in to talk to these people, you have a certain assertiveness that, you know, somebody that didn't live that life doesn't have.
Right.
Did you have to like check your ego, or was it like, did it help you because you could be more firm, or it's just easier to talk to them because you were in that life, so you know you're not scared to go talk to them or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, how was that process for you?
When I first came to Disciple, I definitely had to be humbled. You know, getting that accountability. Like, I was coming into a Christian club where they were ministering to the world that I come from, and like most of the guys weren't from this life. You know, in fact, a lot of the guys are like IT guys, and I had a hard time respecting like white collar dudes because I come from a blue collar background, you know?
Yeah.
And I had a hard time like following them, right? I thought I knew it all because, you know, I actually came from this life, and I was like, man, I might know a lot about the MC culture, but I didn't know crap about this club. So I just had to be humbled, man, and do things a little bit differently because, you know, we're a nation, you know, we're Disciple Nation, you know, and we don't need to do things like my old club did it. Like, we have our own way to do it, and it's not right or wrong or indifferent. Like, there's all kinds of scenarios where one club does this way, another club does this the other way, but we just got to do it our own way, you know, like on how we feel that we're respecting the culture. And I had to learn all of those things, but going into these new areas after becoming like the national president and stuff, it definitely helped to know, like, you know, when a guy that's never been an MC, they first come in, it's intimidating. You know, I remember when I was, you know, 19 years old, 20 years old, and like I was intimidated by it all, but I wanted it so bad I didn't care. And it can be intimidating, but when you've been in this life so long, like, you bleed the same way I do. And in fact, one of the same scenarios in a new area, like there was, you know how it is, like sometimes you just gotta let you know who the boss is, right? Like when you're coming in trying to earn the rights to fly, they want to see what you're made out of. And we come into this clubhouse one time, and they're testing us, you know, like spitting and hollering and cussing at us and all this stuff, you know, and I'm just sitting here smiling like I am with you, like smirking. then they just instantly, pick it up like this dude ain't buying any of this crap. Like it is what it is. And we flat out had the conversation. He's like, "You've been with another club before Disciple, huh?" I'm like, "Yeah." And we kind of went back and forth. And I was like, "Look, man, this could go down one or two ways. Option number one, you kick my butt and you get known as the club that beat up a couple of Christians." And he kind of chuckled. He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, what's option two?" I was like, "Option two is, well, I kick your butt and you get known as the club that got beat up by a couple of Christians." And we had a good laugh, and then it opened the door, man. Like we became pretty good, and gave me his number, took me a tour of his clubhouse, and we just had a good time, But that's what it's about. It's just being respectful.
So has it been mostly positive, or do you have like those times where it's like a tough state where like just they just don't want to hear it? Like
I'll tell you, we have surprisingly, I'll be 100% honest with you, we have more problems with other Christian clubs than we ever do with the outlaw
it's
clubs.
crazy. I've heard that before too. That there's like rivalries within.
It's unfortunate, man.
Yeah, that is unfortunate.
Because we're all here to do the same thing. We're all here to just share Jesus. But with us being an ecumenical club, like meaning we're not any one denomination, right? So we used to say all the time, like we have over 43 different denominations in our club just because of DC being 43. And I mean, there probably is more than that. But what we find, like what our foundations are, is based off the Apostles' Creed. And the Apostles' Creed is like the story of Jesus, right? How he was born of the Holy Spirit and the Virgin Mary, suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, dead, and buried, like the whole thing. So as long as you have that foundation there, you can be Catholic, you can be Baptist, you can be Pentecostal. Like we're an ecumenical club. So we let everybody come in, and a lot of times other Christian clubs might be swinging towards like Baptist or Pentecostal or full gospel or whatever. And we're a little bit more rougher around the edges than most Christians, right? We got guys that smoke cigarettes and might drink a little beer. Obviously we don't do it in our rags. Like that's part of like our rules, that you don't drink in your cut. But, our biggest thing is just come as you are, man. Once you let Jesus do the work, come as you are, don't stay as you are. But we're not going to judge you for whatever you're struggling with. Like we just want you to be here. Right? We just want to show you brotherhood. We want to show you what the gospel is all about. And the gospel is all about love, like loving one another, spurring, like our club verse is Hebrews 10:24. Let us consider how we spur one another on towards love and good deeds.
Is there like how there's like a black set or outlaw set, or like different kind of, maybe like a more Hispanic kind of set if you're in Cali? Is there like a Christian set where it's like more clubs that are like MMs and they don't so much function with the other clubs? Because I see certain clubs, they're with 1%ers, So like, how do you guys function? Does it depend on the state, or is there like a set where you guys are like on the same kind of page and have like your kind of events that are more like related with like Christian topics maybe, or something that other clubs might not be at? Like, how does that work?
There's probably like a Christian set, like you're saying, like that. But I mean, really, we get along better with the outlaw clubs than we do anybody else, because we're coming in, we're being respectful. And I mean, we have all races in our club. We welcome everybody. The only restrictions are no cops or corrections officer, just because of and obviously sex offenders. Like we do thorough background checks and stuff like that. But the people who we minister to, that's your only real restrictions. And
So
being a man.
tell me about that, because James told me about that, and I find that very interesting. It's stand up too, but what about cops? Would a Christian MC be against, like, as far as not against, but like them being in the club? Is it like the dual loyalty thing, or?
Yeah, so like we go into the 1% houses, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah,
we actually go in and hang out. We build relationships with them, because our mission statement, right, is to disciple men in a daily word and prayer time and support the 1% world in prayer. Well, how do you support them in prayer if you don't even know who they are or what to pray for? So our mission is to be in there just to friend these guys. And you can't be a cop and be friends with an outlaw organization. You know what I mean? It's a conflict of interest.
Okay, that makes perfect
So
sense.
and just like a 1% club, wouldn't be letting cops in. Like, we respect the MC culture,
Yeah.
you know, and we abide by the same traditions.
So would you say that separates you from like other Christian clubs, or is that like even in the Christian set, is that like a MC thing, like as far as like? But then there's some MCs that do allow cops.
Hmm.
So are you technically not an MC if you allow cops? That's like a gray area, right?
That's a gray area, and that's
Gray
up to
area,
the
right?
club. I mean,
Yeah, up to the club,
you
right?
got the Leo MCs too.
Yeah, that's
so,
true. Yeah, they're MC too. So yeah.
Yeah.
So so basically the difference between a club like Disciples would be the prospecting, because like maybe in an MM you could get a cut without prospecting because it's more fellowshipping and it's not as hard.
Well, you have like an associations too. So like,
Oh, okay, yeah.
you know, you have one piece associations out there where you pay your fee and you go to like the monthly meetup or whatever, and it might not be as intense, or really you don't prospect at all. You know what I'm saying? So
I don't know much about those associations.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
associations are probably more attracted to like the people that aren't down for like long haul riding and stuff like that. I don't know because I've never been a part of one, but
Yeah.
it kind of seems like the ice cream social scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They function probably different with different, like
Yeah.
not in the same set, I guess, right?
I mean, we ride hard and we put in a lot of miles. I mean, we've got a full run card where we have runs all over the world, and so we're on our bikes all the time. Like I said, I got 70,000 miles on my 2020 Road Glide, and I don't even get to ride as much as I used to because, like, being the international guy now, I'm actually bringing our mobile store to all of our runs. So we've got this big 24-foot trailer that all of our merch goes in, and I usually throw my bike in the trailer. Then we're hauling in the truck, bringing our store just to bring our merchandise to the runs. So I really don't even get to ride near as much as I used to, but we still put in some miles, you know.
Could you tell me a little bit about the Disciple history? Like,
Yeah.
James is the founder, right?
Yeah, James and a guy named Richo, who's still here. He's our international vice president still. Those are our two founders. But yeah, James started in around Columbia, South Carolina in 2009.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where we originated from. And then we really, the big pop off of the growth was around 2013, 2014. They did like that vice shoot and stuff, and
Yeah.
that brought in a lot of growth for the club. But we
Also, that was the catalyst for like the growth, because they
I
were
think
able to see it there and know.
we were
about
already
the club,
starting
right?
to grow pretty big, but yeah, that brought in a lot of growth after that, like in the 2018 era and stuff. But 2019 is when we became a nation. The three things that make you a nation: 10 charters, and the mother charter's been there for 10 years, and then at least one international charter. So we had all three of those things, and the other two things, like the international charters, we had plenty of, and we had more than the 10 charters and stuff like that. But what we were waiting on was the mother charter being 10 years old. So
Okay.
2019 is when we officially became a nation.
Okay. So, so you said that the mission of Disciple Christian MC is to like get other people to like come to God. Is that basically like the moral of where you're at?
Yeah,
or is it
so-
more like people that believe in God coming together and fellowship and basically?
Yeah, well, the first and foremost, like the first part of our mission statement of discipling men, a daily word and prayer time, first and foremost, what we're here to do is show people what it is to be a godly man, and in our eyes, to be a real man, like to be a better father, to be a better husband, to be a better brother, to be a better employee at the workplace, to be a better business owner, like teaching people the foundations that the Bible teaches us, and teaching them about the Bible and having a relationship with God first and foremost. But then it's taking it out into the world, like go make disciples of all nations. But like our main focus is the motorcycle club community, because that's where we've been called to, like, for me being in the MC world my entire life, like through my grandparents and all that, it was weird because I felt like Disciple was made just for me, right? Because here I was in like the outlaw background, like outlaw organization backgrounds, and then I went full 110 miles an hour towards God, went to full-time ministry school, devoted my life to learning about the Bible, and then just mixing the two together. And then I found Disciple, and I was like, that was the perfect mixture of MC and God and everything, and when I came here, I was like, man, I feel like God made this club just for me because it described everything about me, and that's why I've been here and been loyal to it for so long to the mission.
So like when I visit California, I see sometimes like certain Christian clubs are like very on the outlaw side. Like I would actually say that they are outlaw, like because they're not AMA. They wear I believe they wear bottom rockers too. I don't know if it's definitely not a state, but would you consider it like would you consider Disciple more like an outlaw in that realm of the not like a 1% club, but like more in the outlaw realm where you like guys are kind of on your own. You don't answer to anybody else or anything like that. You're not supportive of anybody. You guys like fly solo, basically.
Yeah, we fly solo, and what we identify as a Christian MC.
Okay.
Like you don't have to be a Christian when you start prospecting with the club, like start supporting and hang around and stuff like that. Like we have guys all the time that come in here and they don't really know anything about the Bible or God, but you're gonna learn because we have things that like the 4 questions, the 4 legs, like I can go through those things, but we have these tools to help you build a relationship with Jesus to where by the time you're eligible to be a full patch, like you're going to have that relationship with God. You're going to have a relationship with Jesus because just by that daily word and prayer time is going to change your life. Like you start diving in the scripture and reading the Bible every day, you have no choice, but it's going to change your life. Like it's crazy. So to answer your question, like, no, we're not really on the outlaw side of things or the Christian things. Like our name's Disciple Christian, but MC, but we're fully Christian and fully MC. It's 100%. There's no 50-50 split. And there might be guys who are better on one side or the other, but at the end of the day, we all strive to be 100% fully Christian MC, you know? So I think we just kind of end up in our own little category.
So if someone watched this and they were like, this is what I've been looking for, this fits me more, how would they go about, like if they saw a brother and they wanted to, what's the proper way they could approach a brother and like
Yeah,
get
I mean,
involved,
we've got a full contact system on our website. So to disciplechristianmc.com, that contacts us. There's actually a map of the world where you just click on the continent that you're in, and then it breaks it down in the different regions. Then you click on like me being in Florida, I would go there, click on the United States, I click on the Southeast, and then it's going to give you the Southeast regional point of contact information. So you can get on there, shoot them an email or a Facebook message, and then they're going to get you in contact with the proper person that's closest to you. So we have like a full network system to where it's easy to get a hold of one of us to learn more about us. You can watch our videos on Facebook. James Disciple Johnson puts out a lot of content. Disciple Christian MC's Facebook page, Instagram puts out a lot of content. Me at Crazy Eights Customs, so I put out a lot of content. So you can find us pretty easily. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all of the above.
So I like to ask members of clubs this because I think this is an important question. I think it's the most important question actually is like, is brotherhood a real thing or is it something that we just tell ourselves?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Brotherhood is the most important thing for us, and even in the Bible, like when you read the book of Acts, like where we're called to be as Christians is living in communion with one another. Like the Bible shows how important it is to be in brotherhood. Like actually it talks about being isolated and how isolation is of the enemy. So when we're alone and not living in communion with other Christians and other people, we get into that depressed state. Like it's dark. It's a dark place being
Even
alone.
Jesus had a crew.
Yeah, I mean, he had his disciples. That
Yeah.
Jesus had the epic brotherhood, man.
Yeah.
And you even look at honestly, it's kind of just like how an MC can be,
Yeah.
with Judas, right?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
the person that's in your corner that you think is supposed to have your back, and he stabs you right in the back. Not everybody's perfect. We're definitely not perfect. We've made a lot of mistakes along the way. I've made a lot of mistakes, but at the end of the day is when you love your brother, you see past that. And we have what's called Matthew chapter 18 as the book about conflict resolution. And the most important thing about brotherhood is learning how to resolve conflicts in the biblical way, in the right way. And so we go through Matthew chapter 18 and like, if there's a brother that comes to me and says, hey, this brother here over here said this. I'm like, you got 24 hours to tell him, or I'm going to go tell him myself.
I like that.
So like the biggest thing about brotherhood is resolving those conflicts, because if we've been preaching this a lot the last couple of months, like, I'm not your friend, like, we're not friends, we're family. Like, this is a brotherhood. We run deeper than blood here, and family sticks together no matter what. So we resolve these conflicts. Like, if you choose you don't want to be a part of this family, that's on you. But I'm going to do everything I can to get you to stay, and we're going to work it out,
Yeah.
So, yeah, brotherhood is real, man. And I've been displayed brotherhood from this club like no other, dude. From my motorcycle wreck back in 2021, I had a lady run a stop sign. I T-boned her at 65 miles an hour, and my body ripped both of her doors off the side of her car.
Wow.
And I had all kinds of broken bones, but by the grace of God, I used to never wear a helmet, right?
I still don't wear a helmet, bro.
Florida laws, we don't have helmet laws,
Yeah, we don't have it out here either.
And so I grew up never wearing a helmet my entire life,
Yeah.
And I hated helmets. And for some reason that night when I was leaving one of my brother's houses, I put a hoodie on because it was like foggy and just a little chilly. It was late at night, and I put my full face helmet on. And I always had it on there because it rains all the time. And when I have contacts, so I have to put the helmet on in the rain or it starts moving my contacts around, right? And so I put my helmet on, I think just because it was a little chilly, but something told me that, hey, you need to put your helmet on tonight. And I put it on, and it wasn't 5 miles later, I T-boned that lady that ran the stop sign.
God, bro.
And it saved my life. Like, I had these big 1/8-inch deep gouges down my helmet.
Wow.
I had no road rash because I had the hoodie on. Like, it was insane. I just had some clean brakes. And from the time I hit the wreck to the time that I got back on my motorcycle for the very first time was 2 months to the day. Like, just
that's some real biker talk. I just have some clean brakes.
Yeah, just some clean brakes. I got a titanium rod from my hip to my knee on my left leg. I got a titanium rod from my shoulder to my elbow, where I broke my humerus in 3 places and tore my deltoid. And then I got some screws on my right ankle. So I had 3 of my limbs down, but I still had my right hand,
So you don't like flying, do you?
No, I hate it.
I hate flying, bro. Yeah, so anything you want to leave us with on the last note?
Man, I would say that we don't ever recruit anybody out of any other organization. Like, God can use you right where you are. Like, if God's been tugging on your heart and you've been having these feelings like, you're going down the wrong path or whatever, like, I know I have Christian brothers in other clubs that are in 1% clubs. Like, I have really strong relationship with these Christian brothers, and they're still in their 1% club and they're doing it the best they can. Like, God wants to use you, and he loves you. He died on the cross for you. He shed his blood for our sins. So I would just say, like, if that's you and you feel like that's tugging on your heart, reach out to us, man. We're not saying you got to come join Disciple, but we want to share Jesus with you. We wanted you to have a relationship with him.
I appreciate you, brother.